Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Hi, everyone. Happy 5778. It's going to make writing checks really, really awkward for a little while. Checks. In July, Representative Maxine Waters won the internet for a little while after a hearing in the Financial Services Committee. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin seemed to be running down her allotted time with compliments and irrelevant details, rather than answering her questions directly. But Waters was not having it. Instead, she invoked a long-standing rule and repeatedly declared, "Reclaiming my time." Mnuchin tried to stall. Waters continued to assert that she would not let him determine how her time was being used. Her steadfastness inspired endless memes and GIFs, and even a gospel song with nearly 500,000 hits on YouTube. Anybody? I'm reclaiming my time. We were mesmerized and reminded that time is valuable, and despite distraction and attempts to waste it, it does not have to be that way. Time is a funny thing. According to a recent report, time is the most frequently used noun in the English language. It is part of so many expressions, like just in time, party time, of course, the sadly too common, I don't have time. There are certain occasions where it seems to fly by. Vacation, perhaps, or on a particularly good first date, and other experiences when time is moving unbearably slow, in line for a bathroom, or watching a really bad movie that you are too polite to walk out of. And our perception of time is in many ways more important than its objective measure. Did you know that if we feel like we do not have enough time to complete a task, even if we do, we will make overall worse decisions? And a famous 1970s study found that people who are in a rush are significantly more likely to walk right by a person slumped over and in need, or in some cases, even stepped right over that person. So I believe that we as a society should be concerned because 61% of working Americans responded to its survey saying that they don't feel like they have enough time to do the things that are important to them. And we must question the fact that a typical response nowadays to "how are you?" is busy, despite the fact that studies have shown that people living today are really no more or less busy than people who lived in past generations. But we feel busier. Our relationship to time matters. And the High Holy Days offer us a unique opportunity to examine and to recalibrate that relationship if necessary. We come together for 10 days to reflect on the year that has passed, one in which many of us were swept into the post-election and post-inauguration frenzy, and we now set our intentions for the year to come. I believe our tradition offers us a framework through which to engage in this collective and individual reflection. It's a framework built into the foundation of creation. There's a curious textual discrepancy that occurs on day 4 of creation in the Torah. We read that God creates Shnei HaMeorot HaGdolim, 2 great lights. But then the language shifts, and instead the Torah describes HaMaor HaGadol, the great light, and HaMaor HaKatan, the small one. The rabbis offer the following story as an explanation. The moon, having just been created, asks God a fateful question. Creator of the universe, is it possible for 2 rulers to share 1 crown? Now, I don't know what the moon was thinking in that moment. Perhaps the question came from curiosity, and the moon simply wanted to know if there was a job share document set up for her and the sun. Or maybe the moon was asking a little bit more aggressively, since it seems pretty obvious that on a literal level, 2 people cannot share 1 crown, at least not if they hope to be effective in getting anything done. So God responds, it's an interesting question. From now on, you'll be the small luminary, and the sun will stay as it is. It is the worst possible outcome for the moon. And understandably, the moon is upset. I asked a simple question, and you react by diminishing me? God offers a few attempts at consolation. Most importantly, for our purposes today, the fact that in the future, the Jewish people will use the moon to establish our calendar. Ultimately, the moon is not satisfied, and God establishes also a sin offering to be sacrificed by the Jewish people every single month as atonement on God's behalf. And we are left with two heavenly bodies, each functioning differently, each tied directly to one part of the Jewish rhythm, each offering us a different way to engage with time. As you may know, Judaism follows a lunar-ish calendar, with solar adjustments to keep our holidays in the right season. And originally, the people had the responsibility of witnessing and testifying to the presence of the new moon to start each new month. Here's how it worked. After the waning of the moon, the tiniest sliver would appear, at which point people from across Israel would travel to Jerusalem to offer testimony of what they had seen. If the Sanhedrin, the central court, accepted that testimony, they would declare the new month and announce it across the land. Think about the power that is being given to the people in this ritual. A midrash offers an incredible glimpse from the mind of the rabbis into what could happen if the people didn't notice or couldn't see the new moon in time to declare it for the most important Rosh Chodesh of them all, Rosh Hashanah, the first of the month of Tishrei. God and the angels are all set for Judgment Day. The book of life is open, but the people below are going about their business as usual. The angels freak out, as angels sometimes do in the rabbinic imagination. But God closes the book and says that the court will reopen the next day because the date for Rosh Hashanah is in the hands of the people. The declaration of the new month has serious implications. If Rosh Hashanah was actually supposed to be yesterday, in 9 days, we'd find ourselves stuffing our faces on the day that should technically have been Yom Kippur. The moon and Rosh Chodesh come as a regular reminder of the tremendous power we human beings have in determining how we use our time. But there is also another model. And I'm grateful to Micha Goodman, a scholar at the Hartman Institute in Jerusalem and friend of Ikar, upon whose teachings this juxtaposition is based. In stark contrast to moon time, we have sun time, specifically when it comes to Shabbat. The sun, so powerful we cannot look directly at it. And just recently, North America came to a near standstill to witness the temporary eclipse of this tremendous force of nature. Every single Friday, Shabbat begins at sunset and ends when 3 stars appear on Saturday night. And for anyone who observes Shabbat in a traditional way and has to stop shopping and cooking, driving, preparing sermons, etc., when Shabbat starts, it is a weekly reminder that time is beyond our control. The sun sets when it sets, and Shabbat is on, even if that means 4:17 p.m. in the winter. Shabbat is a recognition that though we may exert our force on the world for 6 days, ultimately, we do not have the power to change time. So where does this leave us? Are we supposed to live by the principles of Shabbat and accept that time is beyond our control, or is Rosh Chodesh right, and we wield enough power to change the nature of nature? Of course, as a rabbi, I believe the answer is yes and yes. Both of these realities are true. And the challenge before us is to understand when we are on moon time and when we are on sun time. Instead, many of us often let our time be determined for us, where we do actually have agency, and fight like hell to fit more in when what we need to do is submit to the reality of time in that moment. One significant area where we get caught up is technology. So much of technology is intended or marketed as a tool to help us save time. In 1930, John Maynard Keynes said that 100 years in the future, we would only work 15 hours a week, and our biggest issue would be figuring out what to do with all of the free time we had now that machines would make us so efficient. Are you feeling it yet? In fact, with new technologies and devices, there are more ways to spend or lose track of our time, now that we have the option of always being connected to anyone, anywhere, anytime. The potential for productivity, or what we perceive as productivity, is infinite. At any moment, I can be generating more content, taking more pictures, sending more texts, finishing another round of words with friends. A recent study showed that people pick up their smartphones an average of 46 times a day. That's across ages. Up to 74 times a day for 18 to 24-year-olds. And another study found that we spend an average of 145 minutes on our devices every day. If you are anything like me, at least 100 of those minutes are not very smart, even if my phone is supposed to be. Somehow, we have given over our agency in determining how we use our time to these devices that are supposed to be tools. And on the other side of the coin, we have also forgotten how to turn off. I mentioned earlier that Rosh Hashanah is the ultimate Rosh Chodesh. Another name for Yom Kippur is Shabbat Shabbaton, the ultimate Shabbat, especially this year when it actually will fall on Shabbat. So these 10 days hold within them our potential relationships with time. We journey from Rosh Hashanah, which challenges us to recognize whether we are using our power to take control of our time when it is ours to take. And we go to Yom Kippur, the day that challenges us to release our grip and submit to a rhythm and a power that is greater than us. From Rosh Hashanah, which asks us to be honest with ourselves about the choices we make and how we use our time, to Yom Kippur, which pushes us to find a way to be present for moments of idleness and reflection. As we spend these 10 days of introspection and honest examination of self, of community, and of country, 10 days full of celebrations and aspirations, may we commit ourselves to reclaiming our time, to grappling with our relationship with time, recognizing where we may have agency and where we need to submit a little more. And together, may we move into 5778 with a renewed sense of empowerment, of clarity, and purpose. Shana Tova.